And good afternoon, and welcome back to the PPFD YouTube channel. Today we are starting the first installment of our decision making series, kind of like a mini officer development series on our YouTube channel. And today we're going to talk about IAPs, or incident action plans. Believe it or not, you're probably already developing an incident action plan every single time you go on a call. You just don't know what it is, or for those who are, keep up the good work. And this is for you upcoming officers and brand new officers. This will help in guiding your decision making on scene. Okay, so let's get started. This should only take about 15-20 minutes. I'm going to try to keep these little series short and sweet, 15-20 minutes, make it easily digestible, and let's get after it. So, what is it? In the simplest terms, an incident action plan is just your plan to mitigate the problems. Or you can be real fancy pants and just say it's the culmination and organization of information that you've gathered on scene, your experience level, and capabilities of on-scene resources, and taking that and developing that into an implementable plan to accomplish a task. But I think the plan to mitigate the problem is a lot easier to say, so we'll stick with that. But in all seriousness, when you're developing an incident action plan, you also have to develop your own priorities, right? So, you have to have a goal to shoot for, or else what are you doing there? So if you get called out to a structure fire, you have to define, what is my goal? If I get called out to an extrication, you have to define, what is my goal, right? And those goals can be really simple. They can be really technical. They can be really broad, depending on what your level is, right? But for the most part, if you use LIP as your priority determination, life safety, incident stabilization, and property conservation, you're probably not going to go wrong, right? So if you're showing up to a structure fire and my number one priority is life safety, that's great. So you get off the rig, you get out there, you're looking for any signs that there could be that there's someone trapped. If you don't have any signs that there's anyone trapped, you just have no signs, you just have a house that's on fire, okay? If you start your fire attack, are you not addressing the life safety by removing the hazard? I think you are. So, if I was to paint a scenario such as you show up to let's say a house fire at 2 p.m. on a Saturday. You have a 4-person family that's standing outside. Mom and dad both say, we're all out. We have all of our kids. Are you worried about a life safety issue or worried about rescuing victims? Probably not, because you have pretty credible witnesses that say, I have my kids. So now we just need to remove the hazard. So then you bypass life safety and move on to instant stabilization. So what I'm trying to get at is that your priorities can change. You can start off with one and then you can move down the others. And then as you address them, you start working it down. So once you start hitting the fire with your hose line, and now we're worried about, let's prevent it from spreading any farther in this house or prevent fire spread to other properties, right? Let's protect exposures. If we're talking about extrication, obviously life safety and incident stabilization, I'm not worried too much about property conservation because the damage is already done. It's not like you're going to be able to fix their car on scene, but through smooth operations with tools or picking the right technique to get the patient out, addresses life safety, and it brings the incident to a close. It stabilizes the incident. So when I put up here, what's the situation when I talk about the development of an IAP? IAPs can be completely different. The IAP for a structure fire versus a hurricane is really different. Yes, life safety is the number one priority, but a hurricane is going to be a long, drawn-out process that could take days or weeks. So my incident action plan might be something such as, debris removal to facilitate, ambulances making it to the hospital. Hopefully that we're going to search for any possible victims, but hopefully the evacuation order 2 or 3 days ahead of time address the life safety issue. If that makes sense at all. The difference between an extrication and a school shooting, the incident action plan for a school shooting from the fire side is what? We have to develop those casualty collection points. We need to get with the police because they're going to develop their own incident action plan. Well, we may be worried more about patient care. They're worried about threat removal. So we don't have to worry about, us taking care of the hazard. They're going to take care of that. We need to worry about patient care. So when we start developing incident action plans, it's going to be situation based. A structure fire is different than an extrication. An extrication is different than a school shooting, and a school shooting is different than a hurricane. But no matter what, we still need to have some sort of plan to mitigate the hazards and mitigate the problems as they occur. So, and when we start talking about what's my role here, I'm going to even break it down even farther than that. The difference between a company officer and a district chief. A company officer is a very task driven. He's a working boss. He gets off the rig. Yes, he is the initial command, but he is working. He is stretching lines. He is crawling down hot, smoky hallways. He's putting fires out with his jump seater. So he's more task oriented, where a district chief is more goal oriented. He is looking at the overall scene. He's more of a choreographer, so to speak. But if you think that even the blue shirt firefighter isn't developing an incident action plan, I would say that you're wrong. Let's take one of our new hires. It's their first day. It's their first hour on scene. And they get banged out to a structure fire. And they're with the lieutenant. The lieutenant says, "Hey, you pull the 150, just get the nozzle to the door, and I'm gonna do my 360. Just be masked up and ready to go, and I'll take care of the rest." Right? So that's pretty simple instructions. So that kid gets off the rig. He takes a look at the front door. He realizes, man, I'm only about 20 feet away from that front door from where we park because it's the mobile home. And he knows that if he does a single man stretch, he's going to have a really tough time. He's going to have to walk halfway down the complex. So he asks his driver, "Hey, take the loop. Let's do an alley pull." The driver takes the loop. He takes the nozzle. They split the difference. And then he does all of his high-speed magic, and he puts the nozzle right at the front door, comes back, grabs the first coupling, gets masked up, asks the driver to charge the line. As he charges the line, he goes and bleeds air out of the line, and then leaves it open so the driver can set his pressure. Well, what happened was that first hour, jump seat firefighter developed his own incident action plan. He was like, "All right, this is my task, and this is my problem. The task is I need to pull a line. The problem is that we're really tight. So how am I going to do it? I'm going to do the alley pull." And so he worked it through, and he relied on his training. He didn't exactly have the experience level like we talked about earlier, but he relied back on his training. So, and as a company officer, you're doing the same things. You're developing, this is how I plan to take care of this problem. The difference between a strategy and a tactic is something that we can get into in a little bit later. But a strategy is ventilation is a strategy. Top vent is the tactic. So, where does all this start? When do we start incident action planning? Well, believe it or not, you started your first day at the fire academy. You started it because you have to have these baseline skills to be able to put your plan of action into place. If you don't know how to throw ladders, if you don't know how to pull lines, or don't know how to put on your equipment properly, you are never going to be able to implement your plan. I'm going to skip all the way down here to the bottom, but really, especially for you company officers or acting officers, if you haven't worked with a crew that much, you need to be having a lot of communication with them. That morning meeting needs to be more than just lip service. It needs to be more than just 15 minutes. You need to really sit down with them and be like, "All right, guys, listen, if we get this, I need you to do this." Right? Because, and I can, just from a personal experience, when I was a Pro-V, I worked overtime at Station 34, and Jerry Lubick was my lieutenant, and he sat me down and he explained everything to me. This is what we're going to do on a structure fire. This is what you're going to do on a car fire. This is what you're going to do on a car wreck or an extrication. And I was really that really put me at ease because I had a lot of anxiety working for the man because, he was kind of like this gruff, old school firefighter. And I was like, man, this guy's going to hate me. And he probably did. but he was enough of a professional where he put the mission first, and he wanted me to be successful, because if I was successful, then he would be successful, and if he was successful, then the department would be successful. So talking through all of these these baseline calls such as structure fires, extrications, car wrecks, it gives people a baseline standard operating procedure for what you want from them as their officer, that, believe it or not, they're going to do that much better for you, because now they're not worried about, like, what am I supposed to do? They know that on a structure fire that I'm going to pull the line and we're going to do an alley pull, and all I got to do is just get the nozzle and the first coupling to the front door, and then my ALT is going to do the rest. So the only way you get good at that is by doing daily communications. If you have enough people, you can do seat assignments where it's like, hey, if you're riding behind me, if there's 4 people, we're going to do, you're on the spreaders and you're on the irons. If you're riding behind the driver, you're pulling the line and you're on the cutters. These are all just, and these are just examples. All right. And as officers, you guys can come up with your own. But we're working on contingency plans. You, as officers, you need to be teaching your firefighters to be thinking firefighters, because if something happens to you, they need to be able to fill just because you sprain your ankle does not mean that the fire is going to go out and it's going to give you a redo. All right, everyone's going to have to rise to the occasion. And if your plan A doesn't work out, like say there's something wrong with the 150, what's your plan B? And if plan B doesn't work out, what are you going to do? What if there's a pump failure? What if there is a kink in the hose? What if your line goes dead? What are you going to do? These are all things that you need to be drilling and putting in time at the drill grounds and to be successful. The harder you work, the luckier you get. All right, so when we're talking about size up, there's verbal communication and there's nonverbal communication. The verbal communication is your bread and butter. Truck 33 is on scene. I have a single-story residential structure. I have heavy smoke showing on the Charlie Delta side. There's no evacuation in progress. Activate the working fire file and show Truck 33 as Pinellas Park Command and accountability on the Alpha side. All right? So everyone knows what they're getting into. You just told everyone what you have. All right? It's a bread and butter fire. I don't, if I'm coming in as a second dude, like, all right, heavy smoke, I'm probably definitely have to lay a line, going to be looking up at for hydrant locations. So just because I'm not first on doesn't mean I'm not developing an instant action plan, right? Am I going to do a forward lane? Am I going to do a reverse lane? These are all things that you need to be drilling in your head as if you're coming in as a RIT team. Hey, where are we going to set up? Are we going to have to soften the structure? If it's 2 stories, where are we going to get all of our ladders from? The size up, that size up is very important because you're painting the picture for what everyone else is going to get themselves into eventually. The nonverbal part of your size up is that that what you see on the Alpha side could be different than what you see on the Charlie, Bravo, or Delta side. Right? And so it's not a singular event. A size up is not just something that just happens once and then you never need to put it aside. It's forever evolving. It's forever changing. It can get better. It can get worse. What time of day is it? When you're doing your size up, if you go to an apartment complex for a structure fire at 12 noon when it's not COVID-19 out and everyone's at work, that's a lot different than going at 12 a.m. when there's a lot of people that could be sleeping, right? So always remember that your size up is information that you're relaying, but you're also doing a size up in your head that you may not be verbal through the radio to everyone else should be doing the same thing. They should be taking that nonverbal communication and developing their plan of attack, how they plan to mitigate their specific assignment. So 360. When we're talking about doing a 360, this should not be looked at as an arbitrary or arduous assignment. Like, I can't believe I have to go do a 360. You should be excited to do your 360, because what if I told you that if you could only see the front half of the building, is that enough information for you to bet your life on? I don't think so. But if you walk around, if I give you 100% of the information, I'm pretty. If I gave you that type of information or that amount, is that enough for you to make a life changing decision? Sure, it is. So look at it that way. Just look at it as you're on a fact finding mission. Man, you're looking for bedrooms, you're looking for possible victims, you're looking for fire location, you're looking for secondary exits, you're looking for possible. Maybe you found a better way to actually get into the house. So those are the things that you're looking for, is a fact-finding mission, and you're going to draw a lot of information from that. Okay, so you arrived on scene, you gave your size up, you did your 360. Now it's time to formulate the plan. So you have to ask yourself, what is my number one priority? Is it life safety? Is it both fire attack? Do I have a structure? Do I have a fire and I have victims? Or is it, do I have credible witnesses that saying like, hey, there's no victims in there because I live there and there's no one in there? How do you plan on mitigating those priorities? Does putting out the fire give the victims in there the best chance of survival? Because it may be I can put the fire out quicker than I can get the victim outside. So that could be a tactic. That could be, your plan. Like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I know there could be possible victims. The door is shut to their room. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to open up the nozzle and I'm going to put the fire out, and then I'm going to move. I'm going to have exterior crews, VES, and take the victim out. That is a tactic. You have to communicate this to the IC though. If you're the oncoming, if you're the incoming first in company officer, and we're talking a lot about structure fires. Let's talk about extrications. Are you going? I have significant damage to the driver's side. They are guppy breathing. I can get them out. But I can get them out of the car by doing a rapid extrication. But is that the best plan of attack, or should I do a complete side blowout and bring them out the right way? Well, depending on you as the paramedic, who you're gonna listen to, like, it's more life over limb, so let's just rapid exer. Or she's conscious, she's got a stable blood pressure. Let's do everything right. Let's do a total side blowout. Let's go ahead and lift the dash. Let's roll the dash. And let's take her out the right way. Let's remove the roof. These are all, the strategy is we're going to extricate the patient. The tactic is, how are we going to do it? Okay. And you need to have some sort of clock in your head that says, hey, I need to reevaluate what I'm doing, because either things are not going the way I wanted them to, and conditions are getting worse. So you need to have that in your head. And it's okay if what the priorities are now are different than what they're going to be 5 minutes from now. Okay, so that you're not going to have a life safety. You're not looking for victims 30 minutes into the fire, right? Hopefully they'd either come out, and we're working on a secondary now. So just make sure that when you're formulating the plan, you're taking in all your information. And you're coming up with a sound plan. Do not confuse strategy with tactics. Remember, strategy is your overall plan, and tactics is how you're going to accomplish them. Just a quick note: when you do your size up, you do not need to establish your mode of attack until after your 360. Because I made that mistake. I went defensive on a trailer fire. It was my first fire as a lieutenant, and it was hooked up. It was right on the outside. It was Chappie and Schulte were with me, and I called defensive right off the rip. And then as soon as I did my walk around, I was like, dang it, man. I was like, because there's a door right here, and I know if there was someone in that bedroom, I was like, I could get to them right now. So I was like, hey, we're doing transitional now. And we went in. We thought we did a good job, and someone was like, "How did you end up inside on a defensive fire?" And I was like, "Oh well, as soon as I got there, I thought it was defensive, and then I realized I can get in there, so we just switched our tactic up. And I didn't do the 5-second alert tone. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And what it was that chief told me. He goes, listen. He goes, do your size up, do your 360, and then announce your mode of attack. There's no rule anywhere in the SOP that says you have to establish your mode of attack right after your size up. Okay, so Engine 33 is on scene. I have a single story mobile home. I have heavy fire showing from the alpha side. Show Engine 33 is Pinellas Park Command and accountability location on the alpha side. Stand by for mode of attack after 360. Do my 360. Dispatch, 360 is complete. This is going to be an offensive attack started from the delta side of the trailer. And that's it. That's all I had to do. Offensive attack, we're going interior. So that being said, I just wanted to harp on that. If you guys have any questions, please call me or email me. And I hope you guys are having a great day. You guys are doing a phenomenal job with COVID-19. All of us here at administration are really, really proud of you. You guys make us proud every day. And go Gators. Peace.